Dr. Kurt Gilman has been heading up our Head Start program for the last 10 years. In the past years, we would actually be able to see some turtles, but this year, Kurt will be kind enough to update us on the Head Start project. And remember, the Head Start project is one of the major line items for our friend's budget. So with that being said, Kurt, take it away.
All right, thanks, Steve. And
thank you.
If you're able to get the Congresswoman on and just interrupt me or something, and we could stop and so that she can get in there when she's here. So hey, I'm sorry I'm not up there with you guys yet, but I'm going to be up there in the next week and a half. Because despite COVID, the turtles are still out there doing their thing, even though we have all been hampered a little bit in our abilities. But I just want to say first off that this project is made possible by all of you. The enthusiasm of the friends, the support of the friends financially, and just encouragement has been real, what has made this project work. And I think you'll be happy to see that it's coming along. It really is. It is making a difference. Bill Koch is obviously on here as well, and he supported it in the beginning too, and his enthusiasm when he was the manager of the refuge. So I'm glad that he's here to hear this as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint of some slides that to go over the project. Now, how many, if you raised your hand, if you haven't heard me talk about this project before, how many people just haven't heard me talk about it at all? Okay, so there's a few. I see there's a second page of folks. Anyone raising their hand? So a lot of you have heard some about this. So I can whip through some of the overview pieces and just save the highlights too. So, but we can also ask questions afterwards. All right, you guys are hearing me okay? Is that a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay? Good, okay, all right. Here, I'm gonna share my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation I'm gonna share, and then I'm gonna go to the slideshow, and I should be able to, from the beginning. All right, and you guys ought to see me in the corner still, I hope, so this should work. What we're doing is working on wood turtles, a population recovery of a state endangered species. This is a turtle that's also being considered federally for listing by the Fish and Wildlife Service. There are a number of people who have worked on this project over the years. You see the names right here, but that does not even come close to including all the summer interns from 2006 through the present who have worked on this project. So there is a tremendous number of folks who deserve credit for this. In general, this has been a partnership with the refuge, with the friends. I happen to base out of the University of Georgia, Spanner River College Lab. New Jersey Fish and Game has approved this. Massachusetts Fish and Game has approved this. And then we work with a high school up in Massachusetts the kids who actually raise some of these turtles. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Just more of the partners. I got a picture of Laurel here with the turtle. The students at the high school, interns who worked with us at the refuge each and every summer. This thing would not happen without some major players in this. Jim Angley, one of the refuge friends volunteers. He's just been an amazing godsend, especially this last year. And Colin is active and involved with this as volunteer as well. Certainly, Barry is always out there encouraging us to get some habitat refixed. This will just give you an idea of what marking and measuring turtles looked like last June. And you guys are all still hearing me okay? If still good?
Wonderful, okay. Wonderful.
Okay, thanks. We worked in the riding arena, kept our social distancing, and marked turtles. That was Ryan Rimple, who was our summer tech last year. By the way, Ryan is now working with me down here in South Carolina. He's actually working for my wife, Tracy, and they're putting radios on box turtles.
That's Chargers. Sorry,
so.
Ben.
Other folks who have really helped work on this, Marilyn Kitchell, last couple years, and really helped me with some of the landowner contacts, which I think is a major point that we need to pursue and keep that relationship going with landowners who are adjacent to refuge. Dave Miller has mowed a lot of the habitat and helped us with restoration and management for a number of years. Down the lower corner, that's the inside of the greenhouse in Massachusetts. Brian Botseraj, Courtney Belay, and Adele Sands, who's actually the principal of that high school. And they, every year, that was September when I brought the turtles up just in 2020, the last 2020 cohort. Jim and Marilyn down in the bottom here, looking for hatched turtles back in August. The project is about wood turtles, which are a stream-dwelling turtle. They live in the stream, but they also act like box turtles, and they live on land in the riparian woodlands and fields. They hibernate in streams in the winter, and they forage on berries and earthworms on land in the summer. We had a small, very old population, a non-reproducing old individuals. When we first found these turtles, started finding them in 2006. Just so you do know about turtle biology a little bit, these wood turtles live to be 65 years old at least, but it takes females 14 years to mature, males about 12. Just some idea, 80% of the females usually breed each year, 10 eggs in a clutch, 50-50 hatch ratio. Nest survivorship is highly variable, and when I say highly variable, if you protect the nest, it's 100%. If you don't, it's zero if the rat get them. So it can be very variable. On average, a hatchling, less than 10% chance of surviving. A 1-year-old, 26% chance. Once they get into the older age classes, each year they 72% chance, and adults, annual survivorship is usually like 96% a year. These turtles have what we would consider this type 3 life pattern, so that mostly if you have 1,000 hatchlings, of them don't make it. You see this purple line. That's very different from something like an elephant, where an adult elephant female takes very good care of one offspring, kind of like humans, and you have
earlier. And I just remembered that I forgot to tell you.
you might have somebody who's on the who didn't mute their mute.
I think I just muted them.
Gotcha. So anyway, turtles, most of the young, follow that purple line, don't make it. They're snacks. Lots of things eat them. And that's okay if adult turtles live as long as they're supposed to, because then they have many years to produce offspring to replace themselves. But if the adults are getting killed by cars or raccoons or lawnmowers or being poached and sent to China, then the population decreases and can become extirpated very quickly. And that's the problem for turtles with these long-lived life histories. So what we did at the swamp, we had just a few old turtles, and we didn't have very good nesting habitat. So Mike Horn and Colin and I, we built a nesting area of dirt. And you talk about low tech, okay? You build in that pile of dirt, and the turtles come and nest on it. They can see this open, exposed area near the stream, and those are wood turtles. Actually, they are on their own, females looking to nest, and they dig their nests on this pile of dirt. And you can see some right in here. We cover the nests. We catch the little hatchlings when they come out 60 days later. That female's nesting there, and sometimes you have to cover that nest right up. You see right there, or the raccoons will come and get it. And I like to frustrate the raccoons like that, and he's hollering because he's frustrated because he can't get in there. But they've beaten me more than I've beaten them, so the joke's still on me. But anyway, over the years, so each year, starting in 2007, we started protecting these nests, these turtle nests. And when they would hatch in the fall, we would release the little baby turtles. And that's what these blue bars are. That's how many we released of just baby turtles every year, over 228 between 2007 and 2016. The 3 little orange bars are the ones we've seen in years since. So just like you kind of expect, little baby turtles are snacks in the environment. And if you want to recover a population, you're going to have to do something to get the survivorship of those little baby ones up so that there are more of them moving into the um, adult I period. And this is kind of why we do head starting. Hatching survivorship is naturally low, and that works fine for a naturally stable population. But it doesn't help you recover populations that have been decimated by human activity. Successful Head Start programs may produce large cohorts to boost the population. Our goal is to increase the surviving number of hatchlings so that we put more of them on a trajectory to being adults than normally would happen. It's a short-term intervention because it's time intensive. You know, if I got to run up to Massachusetts and go get these baby turtles in a week and a half, come back, you guys are paying for us to put radios on so we can track them. We have folks out in the fields who spend a lot of time looking for them. So it would be nice if over time it eventually becomes its own self-sustaining thing. And that's what the idea is, if we can also make sure we're not losing adults in the long run. So the head starting happens at Bristol County Agricultural School in Dayton, Massachusetts. Brian Bostroch has been a long-term friend of mine for years, and he's a high school teacher. He actually runs the natural resource management program there. And their kids, we bring the turtles to them when they hatch in September, and they maintain them in a greenhouse all winter when these turtles would normally be just hibernating in the ground or in the stream. And so they're feeding them and they're growing when they normally wouldn't be growing. They weigh and measure them every week. They keep that data. It's been a really cool science project. And you can see the growth rates of these turtles. They put them up on Google Drive for me to see, and that makes it really cool. And that's how going from just 35 millimeters to almost up to 100 millimeters in just that August to May 9-month period of time. That's a real steep growth curve. So we go from these little hatchlings right here, and then I get these big things back that are the size of softballs. So, and they're hard shelled and they're much more durable. Okay. And they're actually equivalent to about the size of a 4-year-old wild turtle, even though they're only 9 months old. We radio track them each year. You may recognize some. These are just a composite of different years of the interns that have worked at the swamp, some of whom you guys have funded to be there for the summers. The whole idea here is that we're trying this population augmentation, and I'm circling that with my little mouse here, because we're trying to augment this existing population. We're actually working on another project in Massachusetts to establish Blandings turtles at the Aspet River National Wildlife Refuge, and the Blandings turtles for that refuge and the wood turtles for New Jersey are actually raised in the same greenhouse, in different parts of the same greenhouse by the same high school. And I should actually mention real quick that one project's been going on. We've been head starting since 2006, and this week we should be releasing the 1,000th head started Blandings turtle in the Aspet River Refuge. So 1,000 turtles if everything goes right.
Kurt,
Yeah.
this might be a good place. I see that our Congresswoman is on. I
Perfect.
don't know if she's on a tight time schedule. I think you have about 5 more. So either Kelly or Congresswoman, would you give us some guidance?
Sorry, I forgot I was unmuted. I was muted. Unfortunately, I saw her come up as well, and I'm just trying to reach her by text, and she's dropped off again, I think.
Okay, so sorry, Kurt.
But
But,
she
That's
is
okay.
aware that when she's on, she has good reception, that she can just start to talk, and you guys are all being incredibly amenable. So, she knows that when she's on.
Thank you, and thank you, Kurt. Thanks. And so we were at the 1,000th turtle, and you can continue.
That's Sure. 1,000th Blandings turtle in Massachusetts. We're in the 240 range on wood turtles right now here in Jersey. And if the congresswoman comes on, you guys just all wave at me or something because I'm kind of looking at my slides. But if I see a bunch of hand waving in the small, all you guys in the thumbnails there, I'll just stop talking. So
We will
that's
do.
perfect.
Thank you.
So our wood turtle habitat on Great Swamp is kind of limited because they like streams. So they like where there's gradient. They're not a fan of living in the flooded impoundments. So our habitats are on the edges, which does mean that we have interactions with some of it's protected property and some of it is private landowners. So there is a very big need for us to work together and have good landowner relations, which we quite frankly have had on this project. When we release turtles, if you look in the left corner, those all have radios on them and fund those radios, and it costs sometimes 140, 160 bucks a piece for those radios. But that's what we do. We'll track them and find out where these animals go. And the idea is if they're going to be successful, they've got to establish their own home ranges, and they do. And I just pulled together one turtle, turtle 259. This is where he lived in 2012. It's where he lived in 2013. It's where he lived in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and all the points combined for all those years. And that's what you want to see when you're establishing these animals on a landscape. You don't want them just wandering willy-nilly everywhere. You want them to see that they're establishing a population center. And I just threw him up because he's a cool example of that. Here on that we release on a refuge, they do overwinter successfully. There's always been issues where people say, well, if you raise them in captivity, are they going to know how to hibernate? Are they going to know how to find their own food? No, they actually end up under the banks in the stream with the old adult turtles. They know what to do. They're unlike birds that you kind of have to be careful you don't imprint. Turtles are pretty hardwired and they pretty much know what to do. So it works well. That's just an example of a undercut bank where multiple turtles will hibernate in the wintertime. And to get them out in the spring, it means getting cold. Reach way up under that bank, but you can do it and it's fun. So they forage just fine. They love slugs and raspberries and blackberries and earthworms. So they find their own food. I just throw this up here, tell you a little about survivorship. We started, say, with 222 turtles in the 2011 cohort. And yeah, look at over the years, you had 100% survivorship that first year in heads. But boom, there's a big drop. There's a learning curve for these turtles when you put them out in the wild. And even though they've been head started, you do lose some right off the bat. Once they've established their home ranges, then even though you're going to lose some every year, but the rate of loss is less. And we're already out here with turtles that are actually, I won't jump ahead, but even though it's a smaller number, the actual annual survivorship is not bad. So if you look at how back here, you see how many are left from the original 22. And yeah, that's okay. That's not as many. There's only 14% left from that particular 1 year cohort. But when you look at how this annual survivorship is over the years, it's actually pretty good. 89%, 87%, 85, 83. 2020 hurt. We have 60% annual survivorship. We lost a couple to a car and raccoons, and that was surprising to us. But how many have we found after we released them in subsequent years? Radios on everyone. So if we have released 244 over the years combined, 2011 to 2019 cohorts, we've only radio tracked a fraction of those, but they're all marked. And we have let them, and so we know where they are and who have we found just by chance. And we have found the other turtles, not all of them. And that's what we actually did this April. And I'll tell you about that. It's kind of a new thing we did. A reason I was up in April, and it really worked out well. And the reason for that is So look at, we've released 244 turtles. We've seen at least 74 of them at some point since we released them. Okay. We know that 37 of those 244 have died for some reason, but there's 151 that we've never seen after we released them. Turn them loose in the high school, where do they go? And that's the ones that we actually started focusing in on this spring to say, all right, well, if they all hibernate in the stream, but then they disperse out into the landscape, well, harder to find without a radio. But if we can figure out that they're in the streams under the same banks with the adults who we do have radioed, maybe we can just start figuring out where some of these ones are. And that's what we did, which will let you know. We still do have some issues with some things, losing them. You can see what my top 3 problems are: raccoons, raccoons, and raccoons. Also lawnmowers, occasional, they make an error, they may drown or get caught in a flooding event. But yeah, raccoons are and an occasional lawnmower tractor from a neighbor who wasn't really doing exactly what we hoped they would do. Yeah, we've lost a couple that way. But you know what? If we hadn't done this head starting, we had just a few old animals in 2006, and there's the old animals, and the ones that are green bars are the ones we still have. The ones that have died, and the ones that are in yellow or so are missing. So had we not started this Head Start program, we'd really be a smaller population now. And we, as you will see, are being successful at rebuilding this population with the Head Starts. I do still think there's ways we need to think about controlling that raccoon population. And this is my push, but I mean, you all know me, and just maybe y'all aren't. I think some of you would be on board with this idea, but maybe not everybody. So anyway, I get any smiles out of that? No?
Yes,
No? Okay.
yes.
All right, good. Mowing is one of the problems, and just work with some of the adjacent landowners so that maybe they would mow later in the fall after the turtles have gone back to the streams would be really helpful to work with them on. There's some other things, we don't have as much habitat as we might have had way back in the 50s and 60s. Just one piece of area where the turtles do like to be. The stream was channelized somewhere between 1959 and 70. So that stretch is really lousy turtle habitat, even though it's right in the heart of the turtle habitat. You know what I mean? So someday I wouldn't mind we all sit down with NRCS or restoration and think about putting the bends back into that section of stream. It's a couple 100 yards. It's a good section. So there's things that we can even do more things. Certainly, and you guys are really active with this within invasive mugwort and multiflora rose. We did kill some stuff, Marilyn and Colin and I, with Milestone, and we got that mugwort out of there, which was really interesting. Dave Miller and of course John Berry, Colin, we've worked on mowing and then using Pathfinder to get the multiflora rose out of some of the premier summer habitats. So there's all these things to keep working on. It's always, the invasive plants, which I don't have to tell you guys anything more about. So we need to work on those, and that's always a challenge. But there are ways of doing this. I mean, there's guidelines for like working with landowners about mowing at different times of years or raising the heights of tractor mowers so that you're less likely to kill turtles. And maybe we make a greater push for this type of part in the future as we've gotten a lot of turtles out in the landscape, that we start working on this angle a little stronger. Possibility. Just Joni, we know we have really good growth back to the biology though, really good growth during the indoor head starting period. That's August to May, those 9 months. We already know that back our first cohorts are already showed signs way back in 2016 of who is going to be a male and who is going to be females. So at age 5, we could tell what their sex was, which made us say, hey, maybe we're getting somewhere where, not only we have more animals surviving, but maybe we've shortened the age to maturity. which is exactly what we have done. And no one had done this before. So this is really kind of cool. This right here, hatching in fall or spring, this is just looking at the 2011 cohort. There's your growth rate from head starting for that very first 9 months. And then they go basically on the trajectory of normal turtles, because here's a normal turtle of the same age that was never head started, but he's nowhere near as big. He's below that, but at the same parallel line. But what's been cool is this red and this purple square are male head started turtles that reach maturity in 2017 and 2018. And then these 3 turtles back in 2019 and this past year 20 are females who produced eggs for us. So they've produced eggs at age 8 years of age, which is a lot less than the 14 years of age, which we know it takes wild turtles to do. So so the head starting is helping us get more turtles into the adult population quicker. 6 years old, one of our Head Start males mating with an old adult female. And this is just some of the Head Start females. We even have a successful hatchling from summer 2019 from one of our Head Starts at 3590, a Head Start of a Head Start, who we released last summer. And this past summer in 2020, we had 2 hatchlings from Head Start 490, and they are currently at the high school, so they're coming back. So we have now 2 years worth of Head Starts being produced from Head Start. So we got the next generation coming already. That's a offspring of a head started turtle right there. And just to show you, that's grandma, female 12. That's mom, female 464. And that's the offspring of 464, 3590. So that's just really cool. I mean, I mean, you may say, well, what's so special about that? What's special about it is that's really hard to do with turtles. And so I think we're on our way doing the right stuff. So we did have one bad day. I just said that was female 464 right here. And she was killed by a raccoon very shortly after that. And I took her out to Woodlands. She was injured to Woodlands Wildlife Institute Refuge, a vet, and they were not able to save her, unfortunately, back. So that was a crappy day. But we had a really great kid working on the project last year. Those of you who got to meet Ryan Rimple, this is Ryan finding one of the nests of the turtles nesting for us in a corral. So he was pretty stoked about that. And those eggs hatched. There are the 2 littlest hatchlings from Head Start 490, and these are her successful hatchlings. And these 2 are up currently at the high school right now. So this is the 2nd year we've got Head Starts of Head Starts from the 2011 Head Started cohort. So what works? We see that Head Starts, when you release them, they immediately forage. They find their own food. They generally have high survivorship, but we still deal with predation and a few unknown causes. They certainly know how to find suitable hibernacula in the streams. Time to maturity is definitely reduced, 6 years for males, which instead of 12 years, 8 to 9 years instead of 14 for females. And we're getting fertile live hatchlings. So continuing impediments, raccoon cause mortality, both adults and Head Starts. Human disturbance, mowing, haying, structures, vehicle movements, just increased human presence in the area. We've had a couple road mortalities, flooding, stream bank erosion occasionally, and invasive vegetation and the manpower to deal with it. But I think the future efforts will continue head starting. We focus on adjacent landowner education, continue working on our habitat restoration. We're going to decrease the radio telemetry. It costs more money. And we're finding that we do some stream surveys in the spring and we can start finding some turtles that we haven't seen before. And maybe we even think about building some kind of pens that allow turtles to acclimate in a more confined, protected area. And that's something to think about. We do it with our desert tortoise project in Mojave Desert in California, where we actually confine baby desert tortoises after head starting the year, and they get a harder shell, they get slightly bigger, they get a little more streetwise, and they seem to have even more survivorship. So there might be a way to even boost our survivorship up even more. We're continuing. So we do have growth in survivorship. We do have site fidelity and home range establishment. We now have reproduction, which I didn't have that star up there last time I talked to you. And our goal is to get it to a viable population eventually. So, you know, and so that's what we're working on. What I might like to do, if I stopped sharing and if I still have a minute, do I have a minute to give you guys show you a couple just random slides from this last year?
Kurt, are you going to be on for a little bit?
I
Are you
can
going
be.
to stay?
Uh,
Could we go ahead and do our milestone winners, and then at the end you show those? Would that suit you? Or
Sure. I have, or if you just wanted to see this little, it's a patch of those slides, but that's,
okay, go ahead.
why don't-
Have a
why don't,
minute.
why don't I just take a minute and show you guys those, just so you can see what the kids get to do, when that's, setting them up in the high school. That's your two little Head Starts of Head Starts last September. This is also Blanding's turtles being raised right there, which we're working on 1,000. This is Courtney, Brian, and Principal Adele Sands, who really supportive of that project. She loves that project, just like I see some of you guys do. Jim Angley, you can't beat him for helping. He's with a Head Start. Me with my pink mask, I can't lose it. At least it's pink, so I don't lose it. Ryan digging up, finding eggs, and happy about that. Those are also Head Starts of Head Starts, Head Starts of Head Starts. And that's what I was sent in January from Brian of how big they are already. That's what I'm going up to get next week. So they're really good sized turtles. There's all kinds of work to do, finding them, hibernating even in winter. Just some of the people like John Barry doing work with us. That's what it looks like to build the nest mound, and that's Dave Miller at work there. Dave Miller cutting. And then we did the stream surveys this year, looking for turtles coming out of the streams with some folks from New Jersey Fish and Game. Found out where they've been hiding. Jared Green carrying a bucket in the corner down there, helped me look. It's two turtles in April that I've never seen since the day we let them go from the high school in 2015. So 6 years, never saw these guys. So, and we caught them both together when I was up in mid-April. So we're pretty excited about that. That is a line of head started turtles in April. None of them had we caught before after we released them. So that's kind of my final slide right there of just saying it's working. We're getting there's near adult turtles from all these cohorts in the landscape, and this is thanks to you guys doing this and supporting it. And I look forward to being up there in a week and a half and talk to you some more about it and bring back 31 Head Starts that are up in the high school in Massachusetts. So that's what I'll be bringing back. So if that,
Kurt,
yeah.
many thank you. We look forward to your coming up, and also for next year being in person and being able to look in those buckets and see the Head Start. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Steve.